Hello, everybody, and welcome to Keeping Runners on the Road. Doctors Cameron Garber and Mark Humbert here from Body Smart, and we are excited to bring you some information about what plantar fasciitis. I know it's kind of this big, huge term that basically means foot pain that a lot of people toss around. They call it by a bunch of funny different names. It's a hard thing to say. Plantar fasciitis is one of my favorites.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of things. Plantar fasciitis is the technical term, which is actually a misnomer. It's not actually what's going on anatomically. So we kind of want to explain that a little bit better about the difference between an itis, an osis, and an opathy. So there's kind of three different types of pain-causing processes in the body. An itis is that most acute phase. So when you first injure something, and it's really flared up and angry and swollen and things like that, that's an itis. So a tendonitis is usually within the first couple of days to weeks and is usually less common to see in the clinic, unfortunately. We would like to see that more in the clinic, but more often we get more of an opathy or an osis. So go give us an explanation of the difference between itis, osis, and opathy.
Yeah. So again, itis, right? That ending, itis, is indicative of an inflammatory process going on. And while, like you said, while that's happening in the acute phase, that's not happening in these other phases. When we're looking at osis and opathy, we're looking at more like degenerative changes in that tendon, particularly with the osis, right?
Osis, yeah.
Is what types of cells are in that area, what the structure of the tendon looks like, what's happening at that basic tissue level isn't inflammatory. And so the things that we typically do to treat inflammation, right? We hit it with ice, we hit it with NSAIDs, we hit it with a corticosteroid. Those aren't actually doing the things that we need to do to that tendon to get it healed, to get it back into place. And so,
those are the very acute phase things you do in the first, like I said, days to weeks.
Yeah.
Whereas an osis, where it's breaking that tissue down, that is more of kind of a chronic phase or almost a terminal phase before rupture that we don't like, right?
No, we don't want that. And so looking at that, the way that we treat that, the way that we get through that is really by applying a progressive load to that. So funny story actually about how some of the protocols for treating, so Achilles tendinopathy in particular, was the guy wanted to have it fixed, but his surgeon wouldn't operate on it until it was ruptured. And so he loaded a backpack up and just exercised the heck out of that to try to get the tendon to rupture. And what happened? It didn't rupture. It actually got stronger. The degenerative changes were reversed. The tendon healed, and he got back to being able to do what he wanted to do without having to get that surgery.
Right.
And so that's why it's so important to apply those treatments that actually work on that. Because getting into the realm of surgery with tendons, it's
a crapshoot.
It is, right? Yeah. Like we tend to see a lot of long-term problems in the foot and ankle after surgeries on things like a plantar fasciosis, an Achilles tendinopathy. If we can treat the root causes of that before and early, and reverse some of those degenerative changes, then all the better, right? Then we can get back to doing the things that we love. We can keep running, we can keep cycling, we can keep hiking, all of those things.
Right. And we reduce that future risk of injury or surgery. So that's one thing with surgery is it's the best predictor of future surgeries is having had surgery. And so you're just setting yourself up for your next injury if you go down the surgical route. And so that's the not fun thing. And that's where, doing that progressive tendon loading seems to really reverse the osis. And really most of what we talk about or what we see in the clinic is more of an opathy. So a pain process that's not quite degenerative. It's not breaking that tissue down yet, but we're out of that acute itis phase. So really most of what we see should be called plantar fasciopathy, or, we call it like a Achilles tendonitis. It's probably more a tendinopathy than a tendonitis or a tendinosis. Is that really requires an MRI to diagnose whether or not that tissue is breaking down. But we tend to see like more bulgy, like Achilles tendon, where it's actually breaking down and thickening and things like that when it's in that osis phase. And so
hit that tendinotis.
Yeah, that tendinotis. That's when you combine the two, and it's really
that gets you real bad.
But those differentiations really are important in how we would treat it. We're not going to do the corticosteroid and the ice and things like that if we're in this long-term phase of it. It doesn't work as well. And so sometimes when your only tool is a hammer, you see every problem is a nail. And so people use the tools that they have available to them. And so your risk of rupturing the plantar fascia, for example, if you're more in that osis phase and you get an injection, is actually going to really increase your risk of rupture. And so maybe not the best way of treating it. And what we found in the research and science, that the best way to treat that is just really load it up with force. And so we can do that through the exercises that we choose to do. And so finding somebody that can help guide you through that exercise process, can correctly kind of know what phase we're in and start the right types of treatments is going to be really helpful. So we recommend you go look up your local running physio or physical therapist and have them help guide you as to what the best exercises for your situation are going to be to help you nip this in the bud. And like we said, we'd actually like to catch it in that itis phase if we could. Usually if we can get an injury within the first hours to days, we can treat it in days to weeks. If we get it in the first weeks to months, it takes sometimes months to years to get over it. So the sooner you go in and get help, the better off you're going to do at getting rid of it. The fewer visits you're going to need, the less money it's going to cost you. I know we all like to wait on an injury and see if it just goes away. But the problem with that is if it doesn't, it's going to cost you way more in the long run. So you're better off nipping that in the bud day one, and it's going to take you like 1 to 3 visits maybe. Whereas if you wait, it's going to take you, 5 to 7 or more to really get rid of that problem. And so definitely get help in that itis phase if possible, so that we don't have to do the more difficult osis or opathies.
Yeah. Well, I think also with seeking help early is that if it does turn out to be something that you can kind of just work through and you don't have to make a lot of changes, then like that peace of mind, I think is worth it, right? Having someone that's qualified to tell you, hey, this is what's going on, this is what you need to be doing, or you don't have to be doing that. And you can find out about that injury and you can get through that process and not have to worry about wondering like, oh, should I or shouldn't I? And keep having that like waffling in your mind, like get it figured out, get it treated early and keep running.
Yeah, there it is. So that's what I was going to say. So keep running. Our whole point here at Body Smart is to keep runners on the road. That's what this video series is called. We want to keep runners on the road. And by getting in early, we can help keep you on the road. And that is the big key. You can continue to run and you don't have to take time off or take a break or let it rest. You can find a way to keep running without pain and accomplish all of your goals. So if you would like more tips on how to keep yourself on the road, definitely like, subscribe, follow, and share this with somebody that you know that has foot pain, because I guarantee you know somebody that does. So share that with them and follow us so that you can get our next videos here at Keeping Runners on the Road. Thanks so much. Signing off.